once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiable podcast. I am Gavin and I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Juz?
I am good, Gav. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. So, international break, not a lot going on yet. A ton of stuff going on. Sounds a bit mad. Start with a little bit of the housekeeping. So, Arsenal played QPR in a behind closed doors friendly. Finished 4-0 at QPR, but that's not really what it was about. Thomas Partey got an hour. Tomiyasu got 45 minutes. There were no other first team players involved. Jazz, we were kind of expecting this, right? A little friendly or two at London Colney in this break for some of the players that stayed behind.
Yeah. Shh. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, definitely. And I'm still expecting at least one more. I am a little bit surprised, though, that we didn't see people like Fabio Vieira, Emile Smith-Rowe, Cedric, a couple of those guys that are, like fringe, even Elneny. And I understand not wanting to take like minutes away from like your under 23s or under 21s or whatever the game was. But I think coming into this point in the season, having the fringe guys be as sharp as possible is, it seemed like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just being given some extra time off, though, because, with Tomiyasu and Partey, obviously they're coming back from injury, trying to work their way fit. With the other guys, I know Vieira and Smith-Rowe had injuries, but they were quite a while ago. Both of them have been back involved in the squad for a while. So I do wonder if they've just got time off while all the other international guys are away and Partey and Tomiyasu are just in there working on their fitness.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is what it is. It just does. It feels a little bit like a missed opportunity to me. But I think Partey getting minutes particularly is like what's most important right now because he's definitely looked the most rusty.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, as you said, to see another one maybe next week. The customary Boreham Wood or Watford game. Someone just wandering over the fence for a nice little kickabout, I believe, is what the term they use.
I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't. I'm not surprised we didn't get to see Timber. I'm just, all the way along, I haven't been as bullish on Timber coming back as everybody else has. I just don't believe that he's really got much of a part to play in this run-in. I think with Timber, it's about next season, not this season.
I think you're going to be surprised there, Gaff. I do.
Yeah, but he wasn't even involved in this game at all. And it's a behind goals friendly, and he didn't even get 15 minutes. So I don't think he's as close as people are. I think there is more chance of me being on the bench at Manchester City than there is during Timber.
I think there's zero chance he's on the bench for Manchester City. I don't think he'll be on the bench at all. The wording was that after the international break, he's going to start being available. I think all it means is after the international break, he's going to start being like a full-time member, but I think he's still going to have to work his fitness up for probably at least a month, maybe even 6 weeks. But with our fixture congestion going with, Champions League and Premier League, I see him, even if he's not in until mid-April, he still could play a huge role in what, 6-7 games.
But 6 weeks doesn't put us in mid-April. 6 weeks puts us in mid-May. We're already on the 21st of March. So 6 weeks would put him in the middle of May. I just can't see it, mate. I really can't. Could he make the bench a couple of times before the end of the season? Yes. Is he going to start a game? I'd be shocked if he started a game between now and the end of the season. Absolutely shocked. Let's do this. I had this planned for a little bit later on in the episode, but let's do this now. So in April, if everything went to plan, we would have 15 games to play between March 31st and June 1st, with a 2-week break in there at the end before the Champions League final. I think 9 of those games are in April, so it's a game basically every 3 or 4 days. How much rotation do you think there will be during those games?
Hardly any.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there will be any at all. I think there's 15 games to go if everything goes perfectly well. I think Saka plays 15 games. I think Ben White plays 15 games. I think Gabriel and Saliba play 15 games. I think Declan Rice plays 15 games. I think Raya plays 15 games. I think Martinelli plays 15 games. I don't think you will see any rotation. I think you might see Zinchenko win his place back from Kivior, pick up a little knock, he go out, someone else come in. You might see Partey replace Jorginho, but that isn't rotation. That's a player getting their place back in the team. But as for rotation, as in, well, Martinelli's going to sit this out and Trossard's going to start, or Saka's going to sit this out and Nelson's going to start, I don't think you're going to see any of that at all between now and June.
The only ones that I can see it with are perhaps, and I'm not even super confident in this, but I could see it, is Trossard in for Martinelli and potentially Havertz starting up top.
The Havertz one's interesting because I think there's this little triangle, right? Like I said, I think if you look at what we consider our first choice team to be, right? I think Raya, White, Gabriel, Saliba, Rice, Ødegaard, Saka, and Martinelli are the absolute nailed-on starters in their position. I think they all play all 15 games if indeed we get 15 games to play. I think the left-back role, I do think it's Zinchenko still. I don't think that has changed, but I don't think Zinchenko will be able to stay fit for this whole time. And then I think up front and the left eight is really going to be dependent on how fit Gabriel Jesus really is, because we're hearing a lot of different stories that this operation hasn't worked, that he's playing with problems in his knee, that he can't play every couple of days like we're having to. I think that isn't rotation to me. That is something completely different.
It's managing.
Yeah, and that is different to rotation. Like I think if Gabriel Jesus' knee was fine and would hold up, I think you could add Gabriel Jesus to the list that plays all 15 games. And I think in that case, I think you could possibly add Kai Havertz to that list to play 15 games in midfield too.
That's a little tougher for me to say. I definitely think there are going to be games in this stretch where Havertz is preferred at false nine and Jesus falls out. And then
I disagree with you there, because I don't think there would ever be a game where Havertz was preferred as the false nine. I think Havertz is only at false nine when Jesus isn't fit.
See, and I think that's crazy and wrong from Arteta, because some of our best performances this season have come with Havertz up top.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's times in game where it would happen, but I honestly, look, you know Arteta as well as I do. The man doesn't like change. And I think if Jesus was fit, Jesus would start all 15 games up front.
I mean, I can't argue with that. You're probably right. I hope that's not the case. And I hope we still have some tactical flexibility, especially between Jesus and Havertz. We're not talking about like your starter and your second option, you know, it should go against or go for the tactics of the team we're playing. In which case, I think like against City, for instance, we had one of our best performances of the season, in my opinion, in the Community Shield against City. I'd like to see Havertz start there again, regardless of Jesus' fitness.
I think I do get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. I just don't think that's how Arteta would play it. I just don't see it coming from him. And the other thing, Juz, so in this run that we've got, if we're thinking, and again, me and you aren't really thinking this, but if someone was thinking there was going to be rotation, where would it be? I mean, Manchester City, and we are kind of basing this on Wolves. Obviously, is going to go ahead on the weekend of the 20th because they went out of the FA Cup. We think Chelsea is going to be slotted in that midweek. We should have confirmation of that, I believe, today or tomorrow. But we think Chelsea's going to slot in there. So if you look at it and you look at this running, where would the rotation come? I mean, Manchester City away, you're obviously not rotating there. Then Luton at home, maybe you could move a few players in and out there.
Yeah.
Then we go to Brighton away. There's not going to be any rotation there.
Well, Brighton's not the force they were last season.
Yeah, but we're not going away to the Amex and playing a rotated team when we're in the middle of a title run, right? Like, it's not going to happen. Bayern Munich, obviously, the home leg, not going to be any rotation there. Aston Villa, they're fourth. You can't be rotating there.
We're
Bayern
not
Munich
going to do.
away.
We're not going to do full. We're not going to do a full rotation in any game.
I just don't see any rotation.
Mean we're going to put out the same 11. I don't think we'll put out the same.
Well,
11.
I don't think we'll be able to, right? I think we're going to be forced into making changes. But do you see Bukayo Saka sitting down for any of these games? Or
no, I don't.
So that was my point, really, is that I don't think it will be rotation. I think there's going to have to be. I just don't think Jesus and Zinchenko are going to be capable of playing 15 games. But that's not rotation. I just think one of them's going to get injured. And I genuinely, if it was me, if we could get Partey up to speed, I would much prefer to see Partey at Manchester City than I would Jorginho. I think it will be Jorginho, but I would much rather it be Partey if we could actually get Partey up to speed. But if we did, is there any chance in the world Partey could play 15 games? None.
No.
No chance at all. By the time the away leg comes at Bayern Munich, he's going to be looking at 3 months out again with another groin or a hamstring. So we know that basically can't happen.
I'd like to see, with City in particular, especially as that's our immediate fixture. I'd love to see maybe a Jorginho start and then, Partey coming in after half.
I just don't know, especially in a game like that you can make those sort of plans, right? Because how do we know what's going on? We could be 1-up and kind of controlling the ball a little bit, so Arteta doesn't want to make a change. In that situation, there is no way he would make a change, right? Like if we're 1-up and doing a decent job keeping the ball, there won't be a sub in that game.
No, probably not.
I just don't see a world that you can really plan for that. Like I think if we started with Jorginho and Partey come on at halftime, that would be incredibly bad news for us because it'd mean we were 2-0 down and scrambling. Yeah.
I mean, I that's fair. I'm not going to say I don't think Arteta's made some subs like with like fitness and planning their minutes and stuff like that in mind. But yeah, I agree. He tends to.
It depends on the game, though, right, Just? Like, you're 3-0 up against Sheffield United at home. That's a very different scenario than 1-up, 0-0 or 1-down at Manchester City away.
Yeah, but he doesn't make those changes 3-0 up at Sheffield either.
He started to. I mean,
in the 79th minute.
To. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still Arteta subs. But he has started to take a few. Like, he's actually took Saka off a couple of times, which you would never expect that.
But hasn't he been ill, to be fair?
Yeah, they said he was sick, didn't they? The game he come off at half time, but he has come off a couple of times a little bit early just for that.
That one time.
Yeah.
No. I know what you mean though. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a pretty big world of difference between like maybe what I would do and what I think Arteta would do.
Yes.
And, that kind of stuff always has to come into discussion when we're talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think as much as Arteta admires Jorginho, and I think Jorginho has been very good too. So I'm not saying this is like, Arteta favoring, but I think a fit and informed Partey is still the better way to go. And that's why I could see something like that. I just don't think he's going to start Partey off. Oh shit! I mean, I don't know, man.
I'm with you though. I agree with you in that you don't think he's just going to start him against Manchester City, and I don't either. I just think there is a good chance that Partey gets that job back, that role back for a little while before he gets injured again.
And again, I believe we talked about this in the last episode, but who's the 6 in that situation?
Oh, it's Partey. If it's Partey and Rice, then it's Partey. I think there's a big difference between what we do now for the next 15 games, hopefully, and where we go from here in the future. Do you know what I mean? Like they're two distinctly different things. And I think if you've got a fully fit or fit enough to start Thomas Partey and Declan Rice, I think you put Partey in the 6 and you play Rice as the 8. I don't see. I think that's it. Like I do think it's as simple as that. Now going forward, you have to move away from Thomas Partey, but that requires either Havertz moving back into that left 8 and, to be fair, showing more than he did earlier on in the season in that position, or it requires us getting someone else to fill that role. But for the next 15 games, this isn't about long-term future. This isn't about where you see someone long-term. It's about getting to the end of the season.
Yeah, it is, right? And it's difficult. I think right now, with how much of a linchpin, like a crazy important position that 6 is for us, and Declan's done it brilliantly. I'm starting Declan in the 6 and putting Partey in the 8.
I just seeing Partey that much further up the pitch gives me nightmares.
I know.
I'll be honest with you. Like, to me, I just think Partey's skill set doesn't translate very well to being an 8, whereas Declan Rice is a lot more capable of playing both positions. I think Partey can play that 6 as well as anyone in the world. I just don't think he's anywhere near Declan Rice in that 8. Nowhere near it, because physically he's just not up to it.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of this recent injury history has kind of changed the perception of Partey. But
I don't though, because I don't think that it's.
He rarely ever played 6 for Atletico.
No, but I just don't think that physically he's good enough. He can't. People think that the perception of Partey and the truth are two different things. Partey cannot play 90 minutes. He's never been able to. He has not got Declan Rice's stamina. He's not as strong as Declan Rice is. He's not as fast as Declan Rice is. He's not as good in the air as Declan Rice is. What Partey's better at is moving out of spaces, receiving the ball on a half turn and moving us forward. To me, Partey has all the skills that we look for in a 6 and almost none of the skills that we look for in an 8. Whereas Rice has skills for both, even if they translate to one position better than the other. I just don't think Partey is capable of playing that 8. I just don't think that's what he is.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is controversial. I mean, I'd have Partey in there in the left 8 over Havertz.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't, not even close. But like I said, I think Partey has one role to play in this team and one only, and that is the 6. I don't want to see him at right back, although I wouldn't be shocked.
I don't want to see him at right back.
To Ben White, he'd end up back there. I definitely don't want to see him any further advanced in midfield. I just think Rice can play multiple positions. Havertz can play multiple positions. I don't think Partey can. I think Partey is the 6 or he's on the bench.
I do, but I mean, I watched him a lot more at Atletico.
I just think it's a different league. I mean, you've seen how he struggled.
It's a different league, but I mean, it's not. I mean, he struggled because of injuries.
But he struggles after 60 minutes, no matter how fit he is, right? Like we've said this before, he's a 60-minute player. He's not a 90-minute player.
Yeah,
the Premier League is a different league to La Liga.
I don't even think it's that they are different leagues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, but I do think it's just him being that single pivot is a lot of work. I think he could be a 90-minute player.
It's not as much ground covering work, and it's not as much lung busting work as the number 8 is. No, I'm serious. He operates when he's playing that 6. You operate in a box in front of the back line. Our 8 is expected to get up in the box and score headers like Declan Rice did in the last home game, and then is expected to be back on the edge of his box defending again. And number 6 doesn't do that. And number 8 does that. Granit Xhaka used to do that. Thomas Partey never did that.
I don't know, mate. I don't.
They just don't cover as much ground. And Partey, we don't expect Partey to be the same 6 as Rice is.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Our single pivot 6 covers a ridiculous amount of ground, I think.
Not at the speed that our 8 does, and not as much of it.
Man, I don't know, man. I mean, I've not looked at the numbers, but I would guarantee you, like, Rice as a 6 puts in not way more, but I bet the kilometers is plus or minus 2 with Havertz in the left 8.
Yeah, probably, because he's a different type of player. Do you know what I mean? It's like putting.
Well, I think Partey did that too.
So the same role, right? Martin Odegaard plays our right 8 in a certain way, right? If you put another player in that 8, they're not covering as much ground as Martin Odegaard does, because that's who Martin Odegaard is as a player. And it's the same with Declan Rice. What Declan Rice is as a player is nothing like what Thomas Partey is as a player. Like, they're complete opposites. I think they can play the 6. They both play the 6 absolutely brilliantly in different ways. But I just don't think that Partey is capable of playing an 8 in our system. Whereas I think Rice is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think as far as like Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I think if Havertz can play the left eight the way Arteta wants him to, I think Partey could easily do it. Just maybe err a little bit more defensively than offensively.
Yeah, see,
Um,
I just don't. I mean, Havertz in the left eight, part of what he does is at centre forward, and Partey's not capable of doing that. Like part of what Havertz does is turn us into a 4-4-2, get on the end of long balls, make life
yeah,
difficult for defenders. I don't think Partey's capable of that. He's not capable of being in the press the way that Havertz is. I just don't see Partey's skill set as being in any way compatible with that position.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think he's got a lot of. I mean, his ability to dribble out of the press is great.
Yeah,
His long and short passing
He's a ball player.
is good.
But he doesn't have Erdegaard's engine. He doesn't have Erdegaard's instincts. That's just not what he is. He's a ball player, which is why in our six, he can get away with that because he doesn't have to, particularly with Rice in front of him. He doesn't have to do that job. He's got other people to do it. His job as the six, he's different to Rice's job as the six, right?
Yeah,
when Rice is the
definitely.
six, he's the all-encompassing mop-up man. And then either Zinchenko or Erdegaard comes to get the ball off him and move it up the field. When Partey's the six, whoever Declan Rice in front of him has to do a little bit more defensive work than whoever the eight is in front of Declan Rice, but then they have to do a little bit. They have to do a little bit more ball work because you know with Partey's wriggling out of spaces and playing those progressive passes that Rice just doesn't have in his game at the minute.
But you kind of just hit on why I think it would work though. You're talking about like let's say he's the exact opposite of Havertz, in the sense that instead of playing more of a second forward, he's kind of more of a second defensive mid.
I don't think we need that. I just don't think if you've
doesn't
got
matter
Declan Rice, I don't think you need a second defensive midfielder. And I think if Partey's there, Partey isn't going to give you a tenth of Havertz's production up front. Look at his shooting.
It
How
doesn't.
He can't win the ball in the air. I don't see it. I don't see it.
He frees Odegaard up way more absolutely, and both sides are locked up defensively, as well as you've got two midfielders that can dribble out of press and two midfielders that can pass.
I don't think it matters. Like, I don't think the left has that much to do with what the right does on the ball. It has a lot to do with it off the ball, right? If Erdegaard's got the ball on the right, I don't think it affects how the left eight plays. But I do think when they've got the ball and the way we press, then they combine. And that's where Partey, for me, just falls down. I mean, we would basically have no... I tell you what, this is how I would describe it, right? Do you remember the other week when we had Trossard's playing, so they could get out down their right hand. So it's Brentford, wasn't it? And Brentford could get out down their right hand. So, Porto, actually, because Pepe was their right-sided centre-back. And they got out down the right all day because there was no pressing at all coming from that side. That is how we would look with Partey at the left eight. I think defensively, we would lose so much with Partey at the left eight. And offensively, I just don't think he adds any threat.
I a bit disagree with you, but it's all right.
It's fine. We could disagree on it. That's just the way I see it. I think if those two play, it's Partey in the six and Rice in the eight all day long. I don't think that would ever change for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked on the last episode. I prefer to keep my six solid. I think it's such like an anchor, a linchpin position that I'd like to see Declan Rice there every game he's fit. Which is kind of why I'm advocating for Partey in the eight. But it's neither here nor there. I mean, it's not us making the decision, right?
No, for sure. It just, like I said, I just think these next 15 games have got absolutely nothing to do with what happens going forward. This is just now to the end of the season. Like, I do agree with you that Rice to me is the long-term six. I wouldn't even be thinking about moving him out of there. But for these next 15 games, we just got to win. And I just, that's the way I see it. Right. So let's move off from the great Thomas Partey debate that I didn't know we were going to have. So well done. So we've got two competitions left that we're going for. Let's start out with the Champions League, Juz, because I think it's basically more simplistic, right? Like, we've got Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. If we go through that, we know we've got Man City or Real Madrid, and then we've got the final. That's it. It's 5 games. You've got to win 2 ties over 2 legs and then win a final. Simple.
Yeah, simple. Yeah, so, obviously we have Bayern coming up. We're home in the first leg. And no, wait.
Yeah, we're at home in the first leg.
Yeah, okay. All right, perfect. We're home in the first leg. Bayern isn't going to have any away fans there in this game. That I think we also discussed. I think that is a pretty solid advantage. I don't think it's massive or anything, but I do think it's a pretty solid advantage.
I mean, it can't hurt, that's for sure.
It can't hurt,
right? It can't hurt us, I should say.
And then I guess the clubs decided that we can sell those tickets to Arsenal fans, so it'll be a little more, a little more cheddar there for the club, which will be nice. I imagine the atmosphere will be really, really, really good for Arsenal, having about 60,000 plus fans in the Emirates Stadium.
Yep.
I think the key is going to be to get a 2-goal lead going into the away leg.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That my view in these knockout games back in the day where there were still away goals was always that, right? You want a two goal lead going away from home, and if it can be 2-0, even better. Now, of course, the away goal sting is irrelevant; it's not there anymore. I do think with how well we defend, I do think a 1-goal advantage would still be a really good result. I definitely don't want to go there without any sort of advantage.
Yeah.
I think we need to take something. And, we've got history with Bayern, and it goes back further than the 2 or the 3, actually, 5-1 defeats. I mean, they've left scars, but we've had worse ones than that. 04-05 was a particularly painful one, where we lost 3-1 in Munich. And at home, we went 1 up on rescore just after the hour. And it was so frustrating because we just couldn't create anything, and we ended up going out pretty limply on that. 12-13, to me, this is one of the worst teams that we've ever had. That 2012-13 season, we were a poor side that year. And somehow we actually managed to win 2-0 in Munich.
Was that the Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain in central midfield?
Yeah, and they battered us. Do you remember they battered us for 90 minutes and somehow we won 2-0? But they'd already beaten us 3-1 at ours, so they went through on away goals. And it was just, there was a huge gulf between the teams, and the result was a little bit skewed in our favour. Even though they went through, it definitely wasn't an away goal win. They did batter us over both legs in that one.
But that was robbery too. That was robbery.
Yes. Yep.
They were a totally different side. Mueller was
absolutely. And we're a completely different side too. Like I said, that 12-13 side is one of the worst sides we've had. I mean, obviously the side that Arteta came in and took over was a worse side than that. But to that point, 12-13, that was very much as we were cratering towards the bottom under Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, agreed.
What memories stand out for you in them games, Juz? I mean, I remember Podolski scoring an absolute thunder bastard.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then obviously the frustration at Highbury in the 04-05 game. And Moaning Imran may have been at his most moany that night. That was a hell of a night. And we were up in the North Bank that day.
I do remember, I mean, I just mentioned it, but I do remember that Oxlade-Chamberlain in central midfield performance, thinking that might be the start of something we start to see more regularly, and we didn't. I thought he was pretty brilliant on the night.
He had a lot of games like that though, didn't he? Where he was brilliant, and then all of a sudden his hamstring would pop, and he'd be out for 3 games. Just reminiscent of a few players we've got now.
Yeah, that's true. He just could never string like 3 together ever.
No,
I think.
No, and and as you're saying, there's these we've definitely played better Bayern teams than this one. This Bayern, they seem to batter the bottom half at a Bundesliga. I think they won 5-2 at the weekend. They beat was it Mainz? They beat 8-1 the week before. But then they got absolutely destroyed by Granit Xhaka 3-0 a couple of weeks ago. I've got to say, I'm a lot more confident going into this game than I was back in the early 2010s against them.
Yeah, I am too. And Mikel has already had a conversation with probably Alonso, with Xhaka, He just strikes me as that kind of manager, that's reaching out and talking about game plans and tactics and stuff like that. I see it 100%. So I'm feeling decently good about it. I think we'll advance.
Yeah, I think we need that defensive solidity is going to be absolutely vital going forward in this, right? And I think Saliba has got to be better than he was in the 2 games against Porto.
Definitely, yeah.
I think he will be. Having Partey back in the mix, whether it's at 6 or 8, we won't start that one again. I think having Partey back in the mix is going to help that as well. And I do think the way the fixtures have fallen is actually reasonably kind to us around that game, because we go to Brighton and then we have them at home, and then we play Villa at home and then have them away. It'd be far worse if we had an away game before the away game, I think.
Yeah, I agree there. It does all seem like it's kind of lining up for us here. And I do think we can beat Bayern, especially considering our advantages in the home leg, the first leg. Our record against Tuchel is pretty good as well.
Arteta's got a very good record against Tuchel. I remember him. Yep. He coached him massively at Stamford Bridge, the Eddie game, when we won 4-2 there. And he every time Tuchel made a move, Arteta just countered it. And done it massively there.
Yeah, so that makes me feel better as well.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that we should be, no new injuries aside, we should be almost 100% fit as well, which, I don't want to jinx or anything, touch wood, but we should be very fit by then too, almost an entire 100% squad selection. So I think the timing of this tie and some of the things going on with Bayern right now, we should be favorites, I think.
Yeah, and Bayern, I mean, Kane limped out of their game at the weekend, but he is training with England. He was training away from the group, as was Bukayo Saka, by the way, today. But Kane obviously is going to be fine. Kane plays with bad ankles all the time. He's done that since he was a kid.
He's going to get a penalty.
Yeah, we know that. That's coming, that's for sure. Manuel Neuer was sent home from the German camp with a strained abductor muscle. We don't know what that is yet. My suspicion is that it's going to keep him out for a couple of weeks and then he'll be back, but we don't know. We're going to have to keep our eye on that.
Yep.
If we do go through this, just obviously it's Man City or Real. Once again, we would be at home first. First leg would be at ours. Again, we've got a little bit of fortune with the way the home and away fan. That now, don't get me wrong, the games aren't a plus because we go away to Spurs before the first leg of before the home leg, and then we're away at Bournemouth before. We're at home to Bournemouth before the away leg of that game. I'd 100% prefer Real Madrid. You?
Yes, I will be fervently cheering for Madrid in these quarterfinals. I do not want City, and it's not even I'm not scared of them, though I do think we have a better chance against Madrid. It's just in these European ties, I hate playing a domestic rival, especially when you're in the knockouts.
100% with you. My worst memories in Europe are Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, 100%. And I hate it. And and plus we're in the middle of a title running with them. Do we really need another 2 games against them in the middle of a title run? Our players, we really need to remember that this is our first go round at this. Do you know what I mean? It's been such a long time. This is our first go round at this. We've not coped well when we've been looking at multiple fronts, multiple competitions for a long time. Man City are used to this. They won 3 goddamn competitions last year in the same time span. They're used to it. I think they would take to it a lot better than we would take to it. I think they're used to it a lot more than we are. I think because of how good this team is, we kind of forget that we actually haven't done this before.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. You just look at how the 2 sides stack up and you're like, well, yeah, I could definitely see us have a chance. But there's so much more, at play.
Yeah.
I mean, City just won it. They just won a treble. All their players have Champions League experience. We have 2-3 players that have Champions League experience before this season?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you've got Jorginho, Havertz, And obviously, did Partey play in it for Atletico Madrid? I'm not sure whether.
Yeah, he did.
Not sure whether he did or not.
At least one season.
But yeah, we are very inexperienced in this competition as a team.
Yeah.
We just haven't been there before. And
Yeah.
and in our other forays into Europe with this team and under Mikel Arteta, it didn't end well. And no matter what you want to say about it, well, maybe we did throw it away because we had bigger fish to fry and we did pick up a couple of injuries. At the end of the day, it didn't end well. And I think we do have to bear that in mind. And it's easy to forget just because of how good this team is. Like, you look at Martin Odegaard and you think, well, that's a player that must have been deep in the Champions League 6 times. And it's just not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you look just our past couple of years in Europe. I mean, we went out to Sporting. Obviously, it's Europa League, but we went out to Sporting. We went out to Olympiacos.
Yep.
This Bayern side is better than both of them.
Yeah.
So, this isn't like some, it's going to be tough. It's going to be real. And there's going to be, conditions that our players aren't, quite used to or are super familiar with. And
yeah, agreed. Well, I tell you what, seeing as this is the 10 games to go prediction pod, Jazz, I want a prediction from you. Where us Bayern, I don't want results, just tell me, are we going through us versus Bayern? Just a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think we're done.
And then who do we get in the semi? Real Madrid or Man City?
I want Madrid, but I think we get City. But I think we're done at the semis regardless.
Okay, so you've got us going out to Man City. All right, well, I tell you what, I'm going to be true to my pre-season predictions. Okay. And I'm going that we will get past Bayern. And then it will be City, and we will get past them. And then we'll have Barcelona in the final, and we're going to thump them. Champions League winners. There you go. That's my prediction.
I'd love to see that more than anybody, and I'd love to see Barca in the Champions League final. I'm not even like, it's not even like a lack of 100% confidence. I'm not scared or anything. I just I think it's just going to come a little too soon. I think we're still a little thin, and I
can't argue against that one bit. Yeah. I mean, it does feel like this might be 1 year too early. But like I said, pre-season predictions, I went for us to win the Champions League, and I think I'm gonna stick with it. So we're gonna go with me on this, Jazz. All right. So we are actually gonna win the Champions League.
Okay. Yes, I will co-sign that.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's a great way to sign off the first half. Jazz, I will see you after the break when we go into the Premier League and we see if we can find something else to argue about, like Thomas Partey in the 6.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz and Jazz. We really appreciate it. Hello and welcome back into the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. So, Jazz, in the first half, we did the Champions League and where we thought that was going to go. This half, we're going to look at the Premier League. This is a little bit more complicated than the Champions League, I think, because there's so many other factors in play. There's 3 of us who are tight as arseholes going into this. I mean, 10 games to go. We are top on 64 points for a plus 46 goal difference. Liverpool are second, again on 64 points with a plus 39 goal difference. And Manchester City are third on 63 points with a plus 35 goal difference. That's as close as it can get, right? Like, we ain't getting any closer than that at this stage.
Yeah, and I believe that this is the furthest along in the season where there's been 3 legitimate title contenders as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it being closer than this at this stage with 10 games to go.
So it's it's getting pretty intense for sure. You have two clubs in City and Liverpool that have more recent pedigree than Arsenal does. But I still feel like if a couple results go our way, we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got all three teams are in decent form, right? We've won 8 straight. City have won 6 and drawn 2 of the last 8. The 2 that they've drawn being Chelsea and Liverpool. Liverpool have won 6, drawn 1, lost 1. The draw obviously being Man City. The only game they've lost is us. So we're all in pretty good form. And we are, to this point in the season, the best team in it. We've won 20 games. Both of the other 2 have won 19. We've scored the most goals, 70 to Liverpool 65 and Man City 63. We've conceded the least, 24 to Man City's 26 and Liverpool's 28. All our underlying metrics are better than theirs, especially defensively. It's not close, right?
Well, we do have the most losses out of the 3. But, that's, I feel pretty good about where we are. I think we are the form team. We are easily, I think, the best defensive team because our press is smothering. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Not to mention we have some very important players that have been injured that are coming back for this run-in. I don't know, Gav. I feel like we could really pull this off this time if we just have a bit of luck.
Yeah, and Liverpool have obviously got the same thing with players coming back. They've had a bit of an injury crisis, but they are the odd team out in regards to the underlying metrics, all the numbers, right?
Yeah,
they're quite a long way behind us and City, especially defensively. Now, they've been picking up wins anyway, but when you look at that FA Cup performance against Manchester United, man, the defensive frailty, and that's not an outlier looking at their numbers. They've given up games like that a lot this season. They just haven't been punished like that. Eventually, things have a habit of regressing to the mean, right?
Yeah.
Do you think their luck's going to run out over these last 10 games?
No, not necessarily. I don't think their luck's going to run out. I think I see this season getting very close between all 3 teams. And it might even be, kind of a record-breaking season with that regard. But I do think there's more quality in the Arsenal and City teams, and I think that'll be proven before the end.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, we're going to run through our predictions in a little bit, and we've both got it very close between all 3 teams. When I first did mine, I didn't have it close until it was pointed out to me by several people that I'd probably been too harsh on Liverpool. And I did adjust it a little bit. But my feelings is this. When a team falls away, when a team does what basically we did at the end of last season and the season before, it tends to be because defensively the numbers aren't there to keep that stability, right? Now, there can be different reasons for it. Obviously, the year before last, we had the injury to Tomiyasu. We had all sorts of problems where we had Rob Holding coming in, and then last season was exactly the same thing again, right? Tomiyasu and Saliba went down. Rob Holding's coming in. Ben White was playing with basically a torn hamstring. So we had basically the same thing again last year, and that could happen again. Obviously, if we come out next week against Man City and Ben White and Saliba tear their hamstrings, then all bets are off. But all things being equal as it is, I think of the 3, Liverpool are the ones most likely to fall away because they are the ones that defensively don't have the stability that us and Man City have got.
No, definitely not. And I agree. I think I see them. Well, it's funny, actually. I don't think let me look at my list again. I do think, though, that you're correct. It'll be Liverpool falling away, and they've done it so much, they've kind of pushed to the limit for a lot of, consecutive seasons. And I know they were kind of out of it, last year, but, dealing with injuries and stuff like that again, I don't know. I just can't really see them completely pushing both us and City the entire way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and looking at our schedule, it's a balanced schedule, right? We've got 5 home, we've got 5 away. We do have the toughest schedule of the 3, but the reason we're third favourites, even though we're top, is just that Man City away game, right? That's
Yeah, I think so.
absolutely what he's skewing the odds. I mean, we've also got to go to Spurs and to
Yep.
Man United,
Yep.
but Man City have got to go to Spurs, and Liverpool have got to go to Villa and to Man United. So it's not like it's completely skewed against us in that way. It's just literally that Man City game on the horizon is absolutely playing havoc with all the odds.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as long as that's hanging over our head, we probably won't be, favorites. I think regardless of how results are going, unless there's some like capitulation, of course. But I think as long as that City away game, well, I mean, it's next game, isn't it? So I guess we're gonna find out really quick.
I think we will.
Yeah.
I think we will find
Yeah.
out really quickly. I think that the outcome of that game is basically gonna change the odds one way or another massively. So getting into that, Juz, let's do this. Let's do predictions for the running. So we're gonna do us, Man City, and Liverpool. We will start from the back end. So let's start with the Liverpool results. Juz, Liverpool face Brighton as soon as we get back off the international break. How have you got that one going?
I have a Liverpool win.
And I went for a draw initially, but I've changed this to a Liverpool win. You've got the Anfield factor coming into it, so I think.
And I just don't think Brighton's been. I don't
win.
think Brighton's been the ridiculously overachieving underdog that they've been previously.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not a good side. I think they're still a good side. I think they've got a good manager, but
yeah,
I would pick any one of us three over Brighton at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And on the same game week, it's us versus Manchester City. I have a Manchester City win in this one. Where are you?
I have an Arsenal win, but I will say that that was more of what I want. But
hey, they're your predictions. You do whatever you want.
Well, I do feel like we probably we're gonna have a seriously uphill battle if we don't beat City. I think. So.
All right. So then the week after, we're gonna do Liverpool and Man City's, and then we'll do their points total, and then we'll do ours after that. I know the Man City Arsenal game kind of overlaps, but so the week after that, it's Liverpool versus Sheffield United at Anfield. I have a Liverpool win.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, straightforward there. And Manchester City have Aston Villa at the Etihad. What you got there?
I've got City.
Yeah, I've got a City win there.
Yeah.
Following weekend, this could be a big one because Liverpool go to Old Trafford. What have you got there?
I actually have a United win.
I have a United win. I've changed that to a draw. But I Man United, the way Man United play is kind of suited to playing Liverpool, right?
I agree.
They just sit back and then smack over the top on the break. And I think that is suited to playing against this Liverpool team.
Well, and we just saw that FA Cup game, which I don't want to put a ton of weight on that, but I do think it is telling. And, the fact that Liverpool's away. To be fair, I mean, I gave them pretty strong results everywhere else. I just think that United game could be tough for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Man City that week will be playing Crystal Palace at Crystal Palace.
I've got a City win.
Yeah, I've got a City win there too. The following week, Liverpool will play Crystal Palace at Anfield. I've got a Liverpool win.
Same.
And Manchester City will be at home to Luton Town. I've got a Man City win. Shock me with your answer.
Yes, sir. Luton. City win.
City win. I was hoping for a Luton win. Following week, another tricky one for Liverpool as they go to Everton. Although I do have them winning this.
I do too. Yeah. I know that one could be a bit spicy. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I think Liverpool will take it.
And that week we got Man City going to the Amex to face Brighton. I've got Welbs inspiring Brighton to a draw.
Nice, nice. I wish I had that confidence, but I think for this run in, I think City's got him. So I have a City win.
And then I have Liverpool going to the Council House, the London Free Stadium, to play West Ham. I have a West Ham win in this one.
Wow. I've got a Liverpool win.
And that week, Man City travel to Nottingham Forest. I have a Man City win there.
Same. Yes, of course.
Another big one for Liverpool after that. Tottenham at Anfield. I have a draw.
I have a draw.
And that weekend, Man City play Wolves at home. I have a City win.
Yes. Same.
Following week, Liverpool go to Aston Villa. I have Unai Emery coming out on top. Villa
I've got a draw. I've got a draw there.
Okay. And that weekend, Man City go to Fulham. I have a Man City win.
Same.
Following weekend, Liverpool go to Fulham. I have a draw.
I have no idea why I did this, but something in me, I've got a Liverpool loss there.
Nice. I like it.
I do. I think going to Craven Cottage, especially with what they just did to Spurs, I could see it. And they struggled with Fulham earlier this year, didn't they? Or was that last season? They
did struggle with Fulham at Anfield, didn't they?
Yeah. I thought so. Yeah. I've got a Fulham win there.
And that weekend, Manchester City go to Spurs. I actually have a Spurs win. They've got that little Indian sign over Man City and Pep Guardiola.
Yes, I've got a Tottenham win there, which feels dirty, but.
And then final day of the season, Liverpool taking on Wolves at home. Can't see anything other than a big Liverpool win in Jurgen Klopp's last game at Anfield.
Same. Yep.
And Man City play West Ham at the Etihad. And I can't see anything here other than Man City absolutely playing with their food and battering West Ham about the place.
Same. Yep.
All right. So the way we work that out, if we tally that up, I have Manchester City with 88 points. Mm-hmm. You have Manchester City with 87 points. I have Liverpool with... Again, two more there, one more there. I've got Liverpool with 82 points, I think. And you have Liverpool with 84 points.
Yes.
So both of us have got Man City in pole position at this point. I've got them on 88 points. You've got them on 87 points. Let's see how we're working at our running. So we already did the Man City game. I've actually got us losing at Manchester City, and you've got us winning there. So that's quite a big swing.
Yeah.
Luton Town at home. I have us beating Luton at home.
Yes.
So then we go to Brighton, to the Amex. I have us winning there at Brighton.
Same.
Then it's Villa at home. I have us beating Aston Villa at home.
I have a draw here.
Oof.
I do. I think Villa could be really tough on their day. I think there's the whole Unai Emery connection.
And they're in a battle. I mean, I know that in all likelihood the Champions League is going to go down to 5th place in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But Villa are in that battle with Spurs for that 4th spot, because until the end of the season, we're not going to have it confirmed that it is going down to 5th. And as bad as Manchester United have been, they are only 6 points behind Spurs, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, they're still. I mean, I don't think Man United are going to get anywhere close. I think the gap will end up bigger between Spurs and Man United than 6 points, not less. But nevertheless, Villa are still going to be scrapping for everything they can get. Yeah,
agreed. And I think they're a good side too. You know, they've got to be the closest to knocking on the top 6 door. I think player for player, they may even be better than Newcastle. But you know, that's neither here nor there. I mean, I just think they're a strong side with a good manager.
And then Wolves away. I think this one could be tricky, but I do have us winning this game.
Same.
And Chelsea at home. I've got us winning this. I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as a lot of people think it's going to be. I don't think Chelsea are as bad as a lot of people think they are. They've had bad results and some pretty bad finishing, as we saw with Raheem Sterling at the weekend. But I think we'll come out on top, but I think it's going to be a struggle.
I have a draw here as well for us. I think that I think Chelsea's underlying metrics have been better than
Yes.
what a lot of people's representation of them have
100%
been.
they have. They're better than Manchester United. If you look at their numbers, they're better than Manchester United. The difference is that they've had a little bit worse luck in their own box, and they've not been finishing as well in the opposition box. That really is the only difference. Chelsea, by every metric other than the one that counts, which is points, Chelsea are better than Manchester United.
Yep, I agree, and I think it's going to be a tricky game for us, and I have us with a draw. And I think every game that goes on for Chelsea with their younger squad is going to be kind of an an advantage for them at this point.
So after that, we've got the trip to Tottenham. Man, this is going to be some game. It's going to be fiery as fuck. I have a draw. I would love to say a win there. I have a draw.
I've got to win because, fuck Tottenham.
That's fair. I mean, that's an absolutely fair point that you've just made. Bournemouth at home. I have a win.
Win. Yep, win.
Reece Nelson in the 98th minute, or can we get it done a bit earlier this time?
Oh, that'll be his 6th goal.
He's just going to come on and bang one in 98 minutes. I like it. I like it. And then second to last game of the season as it stands, without knowing where things are going to get moved around to, but it looks like this one's probably going to stand as the penultimate game. It's Old Trafford. We have a horrific record at Old Trafford. Doesn't seem to matter how much better than them we are. It's just a ground that we just don't do well at. And I have a costly draw there.
I have a loss.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, that's the fear, isn't it? It's just not a ground that traditionally we've done well at.
No, yeah, I mean it's bogey as hell, isn't it? Like that's all I can, And I hate doing that, because I'd love to beat United pretty much more than anybody. But yeah, I don't know, going to Old Trafford and regardless of form, it seems like it's the worst game for form going out of the window,
Yeah. And then final day of the season, much like in 97-98 when we won the title and Tony Adams hit that volley into the bottom corner, that sums it all up moment. Everton at home, I've got a pretty comfortable Arsenal win.
Yeah, same. Didn't we had them last season too, didn't we? Or was it the season before?
5-0. Or was it Wolves?
5.
No, last year might have been Wolves. I think the year before was Everton.
Yeah, I think you're right. But we put like 4 or 5 past both, I think, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah, we like scoring 5 on the last day of the season.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So my points totals at the end of this season, I have Arsenal with 87, Man City with 87, and Liverpool with 84.
Jesus, it can't get much tighter than that. So you've got it going down to goal difference.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, and as it stands right now, we've got the advantage in goal difference.
Yep.
But that is tight. What is that over Man City? I mean, plus 46 to plus 35. So we've got a pretty healthy goal difference advantage at the minute. It's 11. That can obviously change pretty quickly because Man City are obviously more than capable of scoring 11 goals in 2 games. So that can change quickly, but it is nice to at least have that advantage. I have Man City pipping us to the title by 1 point. I'm with you. I have us on 87 with 1 defeat and 2 draws in the last 10 games. And I have us on 87 and I have them getting to 88 because I have them being basically only dropping points at Tottenham and away at Brighton. That's how close this is, Juz.
What do you got for Liverpool?
Liverpool, I've got them way back on like 80. Well, not way back, but I've got them back on like 83 or 84 points. I just, I have an extra defeat in there for them. And I think that will basically be curtains for them. I just don't, like I said before, I just don't see. I think that their defensive instability at some point is going to cost them a game that us or Man City won't drop.
I think I've not done like a deep dive into this, but I think their backline, everybody knows their first choice backline, right? It's Robbo, Van Dijk, Konate, and Trent, I would say.
And Alisson as well.
Yeah, and Alisson. And I feel like they've barely had that at all this season. So I think
Robertson's been in and out of the side.
Yep.
Trent is injured again. Is Kanate out for the season? Is he done or is he coming back? I'm not sure.
I didn't think he was done, but I knew his
Okay.
injury was a little more serious.
Yeah, and I think Allison might be out a little while longer too. So yeah, definitely, there's definitely mitigating circumstances for it.
Yeah.
But the numbers are what the numbers are, and the numbers say that they are not really in the same realm as us and Man City defensively. And I think that comes down to shape as much as anything else.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're as coherent as they need to be in their shape,
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't want to get into a Gakpo discussion here, by the way, Gaff. But it is. It's interesting though. They do have they've got a lot of good attackers, but a lot of them are streaky. You're looking at Nunez, Gakpo, Diaz. Obviously Salah's the man, but
Salah and Jota, you can't argue with their end product. You can't argue with their numbers at all. Salah obviously more so. Salah's a world-class footballer, but even Jota, you can't argue with his return. But the others are very, very streaky.
Yep. So you never know, in that regard. And then City, Rodri could tear his ACL in the game against us the next game. And
City... I think when you do these things though, Jazz, we've done these just not assuming injury, right? Like you can't assume injury. So obviously, like I said, if we get into that game at City and 20 minutes in, Saliba pulls up with a torn hamstring, and 5 minutes later Ben White does, touch wood, that wouldn't happen. But if it did happen, then obviously all this is moot. Because without those two players, we are not winning 7 of the last 10 games. And I think we need to win 8, right? I think to me, that is what this comes down to. I think in order for us to win the league, we need to win 8 of these last 10. I don't think we can.
What we both have, right? Yep.
No, we've got us winning 7.
Yeah, 7.
We've both got us winning 7, and I think we need 8. That's why I've got us falling 1 game short. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I think you get the wrong player injured, and I just don't think you can do it. And like you said, it's the same for Rodri at Man City. If Rodri goes down, I've got Man City winning 8 of the last 10. Without Rodri, I don't have them winning 8 of the last 10. And Liverpool, if Liverpool lose Van Dijk, I don't have them being in it.
Yeah, I've rarely seen a team as good as City be so reliant on someone like Rodri for results, but they clearly are. He's by far their most important player, I think. And
I think the thing is, they don't have anyone remotely similar to Rodri, right? Like we're sitting here in the first half and we're arguing about whether Partey or Rice should play the 6 if they play together. There is no one in that Man City squad that you look at and think, well, if you played him and Rodri could play the 8. And Rodri can play the 8, by the way. Rodri could play the 8 every bit as well as Declan Rice does. But there is not that argument for anyone at Manchester City because they just do not have anyone else to play that position.
Yeah, and now they've lost their golden boy Calvin Phillips as well, right?
They might be better for that. Addition by subtraction. He is a god-awful footballer. But that's, you see what I'm saying, right? Is that I just think that is the position in their squad that they don't have anyone even remotely capable of filling in for. They have to change their whole structure if that happens. They would basically have to play John Stones there, who's a completely different player, obviously. And John Stones kind of almost plays that position when they do that weird centre-back thing, because he joins in from centre-back and almost makes a double pivot with Rodri. But there's no one. I was having this discussion with someone else in a WhatsApp group this morning, actually, because we were talking about formations, and we were talking about how Arteta likes the single pivot. And there's probably 10 players in the world, maybe, that can play that role. And we've got 2 of them. Maybe 3 if you include Jorginho. Man City have 1 of them. They don't have anyone else. Now, it just so happens that Man City's 1 is better than any of our 3. And I don't think any of us are going to argue that, right? Like Rodri is almost Partey and Rice combined as a footballer. And I think Rice can get there. but he's not there. He's not there yet. But they don't have.
But what Rodri's like 31 or something too.
No, Rodri's younger than you think. He's only like 27. I think
really?
I think he's like 2.5 years older than Rice. Rodri's younger than you think. He's played a long time, but he's younger than you think. But they just have no one analogous to him at all. You can't say that someone else could fill in for him in that role because there is no one in their squad that can do that.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you lost Rice, as big a blow as it would be to lose Rice, and here's the if Partey could stay fit, then we would be able to, I'm not saying you wouldn't miss Declan Rice, of course you would, but we would possibly miss Declan Rice more in the 8 than we would in the 6 when you're bringing Partey in.
Yep. Yeah, they have nobody that can. They've got like a single point of failure.
Hugely single point of failure, like as big basically as we were with Partey before this summer.
Yep, and yeah, like you said, we've got 3 players that can all do it respectfully
in a different way. In a different way, in a different way. But we can make it work with any of them, whereas they don't really have anyone that they can just plug in and make it work around.
Nope. Yeah, I agree. I mean, who would it be? Bernardo Silva at this point?
Yeah. But I mean, see, for us, I do wonder if that player is William Saliba. For us. Because we don't, they're centre-backs. I think you can take their centre-backs out and move someone else in and be relatively okay with it. I think if you take William Saliba out of our back line, I think all this crumbles because you've got it's not just how good a defender he is, it's that pace, it's that ability that we have to play so much further up the pitch when he plays. So I think Saliba could be our version of Rodri, where we just don't. And I think Ben White's a great defender. Like moving Ben White inside, playing Tomiyasu at right back, fine, I've got no problem with that. But I do think that strategically completely alters any game plan that we have because I don't think you can play the same way with Ben White as you can with Saliba. I just don't think you can play as high up and be as comfortable.
Well, and in every team's got that player too, right? Every team has got that very important player.
Look, we've talked about Liverpool's injuries, right? We've talked about this and that. If one of those injuries had been called Virgil van Dijk, they would not be in this title race.
Yeah. And he's even been, he's coming back, but he's even been, not quite as great.
He's had a couple of games. I mean, we got past him a few times, tore him apart a few times. I thought he got torn apart by Erling Haaland pretty easily. Actually, a lot of people showed that clip of Haaland going past him and shooting straight at the keeper. As look at this brilliant defending from Van Dijk. I didn't think that was brilliant defending from Van Dijk. He got absolutely he got absolutely basted by Haaland. Haaland he shot straight at the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So that single point of failure, he's definitely there. A question we had, Juz, and I apologize, I couldn't find the question when I went back to it because of how fucking Twitter he's done now. But this was a question that came down. Is it a successful season if we finish second to City in the league and go out in the semi-final of the Champions League again to City? Is that a successful season?
I hate to be boring, Gav, but I think it's all about context, right? Like if we push City to the very last game week and we put up a fight in the semifinal and still go out, yeah, I'd say that's probably a successful season. If we go out 9-2 in the semifinal on aggregate and lose to City by 8 points, I don't think it's a successful season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's key in the wording here as well, right? Like I don't think there's any way that it can be a successful season if we win nothing. It doesn't mean that it's a bad season. It doesn't mean that it's a failure. It doesn't mean you tear everything up and start again. But I don't think it can be a successful season if we don't land one of the big 2 trophies. It can still be an enjoyable season. It can still be a good season. It can still be a season of growth. It can still be a season of promise. But it can't be a successful season in my book. I think you have to win something for it to be successful.
Otherwise, you're just Tottenham, really.
Yeah. You're Tottenham under Pochettino, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. What do you think? I'm not going to make you, pick one or anything, but out of the 2 trophies we're still in, what do you find more likely?
Champions League.
You do?
Yeah, 100%.
That's interesting.
I think it's more like the Champions League. First off, there's a chance we don't have to go to Manchester City. Secondly, even if we do have to go to Manchester City, they still have to come to ours to balance it out.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that if Liverpool were in the Champions League, they would be the third best team in it. And they're not in the Champions League. So I think we're playing better teams in the Premier League, basically. Not as in playing, I'm not saying that Wolves, Brighton or Villa are better than Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, but I do think Liverpool are better than Real Madrid. And I think the Premier League is harder to win than the Champions League. That's the question, basically, right? I think the Premier League is harder to win than the Champions League. And like I said, I think to win the league from here, we've got to win 8 games. To win the Champions League, we could win the Champions League without winning without winning a single game.
That's true.
We could have 5 draws, win 3 penalty shootouts, and win the Champions League.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the Premier League is harder to win. So I think the Champions League is more likely.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say the league, but you made some good points. I just feel like the position that we're in right now, as long as we carry ourselves how we have been, it should be easy. But these knockout ties in the Champions League could go either way at any point.
Well, you only have to have a bad 15 minutes in the Champions League, right? And you're done. Yeah. You have bad 15 minutes at home to Bayern, you concede 3 goals, and it's see you later. You're out. Whereas you have a bad 15 minutes, concede 3 goals to Man City in the league and lose the game. If you win the next 9, the odds are you're still going to be champions. So that is the thing. There is a bit more scope for a mistake in that. I just think the consistency level, like I said, I think we need 8 wins to win the title in the Premier League. And I think that is a big ask when, 5 of our games are away and 3 of them are Manchester United, Tottenham and Manchester City, grounds that traditionally we haven't done well on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point.
Okay, mate. Well, thank you for that tonight. That was enjoyable. We'll get this out and we'll be back with you before the City game. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll get a couple of episodes out next week. The one early in the week, we'll round up the international break as best we can and come at you with any news from that, and then we'll be back to preview the City game later in the week.
Yep, that sounds good, mate.
All right, perfect. Thanks, mate. I will speak to you soon.
All right, thank you, Dewey.